All hail a beard, it's your boy Big Beard B, and we are back for another edition of Big Beard Business. Today I wanted to hop back into the world of cologne fragrances because I haven't done it in a while, but if you are not familiar with cologne fragrances or inspired expressions, then these fragrances are fragrances that are explicitly modeled after other fragrances that have come out, and they're looking to provide them to you in most cases at a cheaper price point to make them more widely available. Question of the day, what is your favorite cologne fragrance brand? Now, first up, this is like my second bottle of this fragrance, and this one is one of the introductions into the world of cologne fragrances for me because I hadn't really heard about it until I hopped onto YouTube and started watching videos, and I saw a lot of people talk about this scent and having the real deal. I eventually got it and I was like, yeah, okay, this one is dope. And in my opinion, one of the best cologne fragrances from this house, as well as one of the best cologne fragrances out there. And to me, this one is Pineapple Vintage Intense. Now, Pineapple Vintage Intense is modeled after the king, Creed of Vintage. Is it still the king? Comment that down below. This one here smells eerily similar to it. Now, one of the things that you'll have to consider if you're looking to pick up a fragrance from Parfums Vintage is that they are really looking to recreate vintage batches. All right, for those of you who are really into fragrances, you know that there are fragrance batches, and because of those batches and the small nuances and changes, it can change the way the fragrance performs, the way it smells, the way it projects, etc. And some people are really prone to go for specific batches, i.e. paying more than retail for that specific batch if it's no longer available. But one of the ways that you can kind of cut down on it is going to be by looking at a house like this. So there you have it. Parfums Vintage Intense is a key player for me when it comes down to vintage clones, although there are a ton of them out there. That's one of the ones that I personally think is the best. Now, the next fragrance I want to talk about is another Creed clone, but this one that is coming from a different house from the clone creator, and I really find it difficult for companies to match the tea and inkiness of the fragrance that I'm going to mention. So when I look at the fleet of clone fragrances that I have in my collection, specifically centered around this fragrance, I would say that this is one of the best ones, and this one comes from the house of Armaf, and this one is Club de NUIT SILLAGE. All right, so this fragrance here is modeled after one of my personal favorite fragrances of all time, and that is Creed Silver Mountain Water, aka Mrs. Still Your Wife, aka the Porcelain God. That fragrance is top tier to me, and a lot of fragrances fall under it like a limbo, in the words of Drake. But if you're looking for one to save some money on, this is one that I would tell you to try out. One of the more recent versions of that clone within my collection there, and there's others that they offer. They have Armaf Clubhouse Derby Blanche, right? And then you also have the Haramain version of that as well. But I'm going to say that the SILLAGE version is probably the better of the three fragrances that are out there that I know of right now. Now, next I'll get into one that is just a nice scent and another Creed clone. You know, Creed fragrances are expensive if you're going retail, right? And also, depending on what your financial situation is like, they could still be expensive on the gray market, as they could run, you know, upwards of $200. But this next one is also from the house of Parfums Vintage. Again, they have a ton of different clones of this fragrance, so be sure to go in and find out which one is going to work best for you based upon batches, etc., based on what you see, or check out some of my videos on these. But this fragrance here is none other than Rush of Unicorns. Now, Rush of Unicorns is going to be a fragrance that is modeled after Creed's Millesime Imperial, which is just a top tier magnificent scent. Now, there are other fragrances out there that are said to be modeled after it: Ed Hardy Love and Luck, Sean John Unforgivable, but they don't explicitly come out and say, hey, we're cloning you. But this one does. Okay, so therefore it's on the list today. Parfums Vintage is known for making clone fragrances, and one of the things that they get knocked on is that the cost and price point of them. However, again, if you look at their business model of going after specific batches, if you're going to hunt on for one of these batches, you may find yourself paying way over the original retail price. So I think they have something going on there. Now, the next fragrance I want to mention today is one that is fresh. It's a nice scent, and it's one that when I heard about it, I was like, nope, not gonna like it, hate it, don't even send it to me. But when it came in, I was super surprised, and it's one that I've gone back to over and over again, and actually have mentioned this in a variety of lists. The fragrance comes from that of Haramain, part of their portfolio collection, and this one is Neroli Canvas. Now, Neroli Canvas has obviously the keynote of Neroli there, which I am not the biggest fan of, specifically the fragrance that this one is modeled after, which just happens to be Tom Ford's Neroli Portofino. I've purchased multiple decants of Neroli Portofino over the years, but if you're really looking at it, Neroli Portofino is said to be a clone of a 4711. So there's a take for you, right? So I guess the clone of a clone, and the reason why I'm going off of a Tom Ford's Neroli Portofino, that's the more expensive out there between those two. 4711 is quite inexpensive, especially for the bigger bottles. So if you're looking for a Neroli Portofino type of vibe, right, but you're not familiar with 4711, then definitely try that one out. But this one here, Neroli Canvas from Haramain, is one that I would wear. I do not wear the other two. Actually, I gave my 4711 away, got rid of my Neroli Portofino decants, and this is the one that I go for if I'm going for that same type of vibe. That's just my take. And since we're going off of a fragrance that I like more than the original, this next one here is one that I enjoy more than the original as well. This one comes from Alexandria Fragrances, and this one is Alexandria Fragrances Zion. Now, Zion is modeled after a fragrance from Roja, and that one is Elysium. This one is citrus, it's wood, it's fresh, and this one really did wonders for me down there in that Florida heat. And again, this is one that I enjoyed a bit more than the original. Now, when they recreate these fragrances, you know, you get very close to them, right? But not 100%. If it was 100%, then hey, you know, it would be a carbon copy. You probably couldn't sell it. But green qualities here, citrus, aromatic fragrance that really does work and performs well on my skin. Zion from the house of Alexandria Fragrances. Now, as we dive into this next fragrance, this is one that I have a lot of clones of this scent, but the fragrance that I'm talking about right now is one that I personally think is one of the best clones of the fragrance that I'm talking about, or the OG, which happens to come from Parfums de Marly, which is Parfums de Marly's Pegasus. I am a huge fan of Pegasus. That almond note, it's bitter, it's airy, and it just works in a lot of different situations for me. But the one that I want to talk about comes from Armaf, and this one is Armaf's Craze. Now, when I think of the name Craze, I think of crazy, right? I think of the way this bottle was set up, this little leather piece around it kind of reminded me of a straitjacket, and it looks a little cheesy. But if you can get past that and begin to spray this fragrance on, I think it's one that you'll be pleasantly surprised with. One of the other fragrances out there that I really do enjoy, but I think this one matches a bit more closely than that, is from Haramain, and that one is Royal Stallion, and that has that same almond, bitter, airy vibe there, but this one is a bit closer to me, and the price point is a bit cheaper than what you would get with Haramain's Royal Stallion, so that's why I'm going with Craze here. And the next fragrance that we're talking about also comes from Alexandria Fragrances, but this one here is one that I originally enjoyed more than the original, but I went back to the original over and over again, and maybe because of this scent is why I enjoyed the original so much more. But the fragrance that we're talking about today is Fructus Virgins, which is a recreation of Tom Ford's Lost Cherry. Now, if you go back a few years and when that fragrance came out, you know that I passed on it twice, all right? And I got this one in and I began to smell it and began to wear it. The compliment factor was there and I enjoyed it more and more. And I was like, hold up, I think I need the OG. But they didn't have it in the store, and it kept going over and over again. So it took me a while to get the actual fragrance in my collection, which I do have now, but this is just a phenomenal fragrance. This one is fruity, it's sweet, and it just pops off the skin. Longevity is there, projection is there, very similar to the original, but to me, Still, even today, this one is less cloying than the original because it does have that factor to it, but it's a unisex scent out there that I really don't think you can go wrong with. Get your nose on both of them, Lost Cherry and Fructus Virgins. Now we are down to the final 3 fragrances here, and I don't come across many companies that attempt to recreate this fragrance house, but this company did, and the company I'm talking about is Haramain, and this one is Opulent Saffron. Now, Opulent Saffron is a recreation of Byredo's Black Saffron, which I really enjoy. Now, one of the things that I enjoy about this fragrance, as well as that one, is it almost has this hairspray type of vibe, and that saffron there, that spiciness, is a super wearable saffron, which is something that I enjoy. One of the things that I think they did well within this scent is capture the lightness, airiness that comes along with a lot of the Byredo fragrances, and they did that with this scent here. All in, great fragrance. I get nice performance with this scent, and yeah, it's just a great spicy scent without being overtly spicy, and a great deal of freshness is still there. Be sure to try that fragrance out. So this next one comes in just because of the compliment factor that I got along with it, which made me go back to it over and over and over and over again, and also pick up the original scent. But I didn't need to, and I'll just be honest there. The fragrance that I'm talking about comes from Alexandria Fragrances, and this one is 1981X. This thing is a top tier, boom, bang up scent because they did everything right here. I had never smelled the fragrance that this one is modeled after, which is Naxos 1861 from Xerjoff, but this one, 1981X, yeah, for sure. Aromatic, honey, sweet tobacco, boom, anything you need in the fragrance, that one has it. Again, that compliment factor there ran so much in this one that I loaned this fragrance out to people. I wore it over and over and over again, spring, summer, fall, winter, I didn't care. I was rocking 1981X. And the final fragrance I want to talk about today is, in my opinion, the best way to do a clone fragrance. All right, so if I'm thinking of companies who are making clone fragrances, Alexandria Fragrances, the Haramains, I get why they do other ones, but for me, this is going to be the best reason that a fragrance should be cloned, because the fragrance is discontinued. The fragrance that I'm talking about today comes from Parfums Vintage, and the fragrance that they have modeled this one after is Dolce & Gabbana's By Man, the one in the zebra bottle. The fragrance though is Intrigo Devastante Intense, and this thing to me is as close gets for a fragrance that is no longer around. If you're looking for a fragrance like By Man that has been discontinued for so many years, you begin to pay obviously way over what the retail price was for diminishing returns. In fact, because of shelf life on fragrances, right? The average shelf life for a fragrance, if you go into a store, it's going to say like 3-5 years. You can extend beyond that, but that fragrance, I believe, was discontinued when I was like early high school, like 9th grade. I am now 34, so I don't want to spend money, especially $300-400 for a fragrance that has been discontinued for that long, when I can get something like this that I know is fresh, still has that 3 to 5 year shelf life at minimum, and it just comes off as something that is super amazing to me. Intrigo Devastante Intense from Parfums Vintage. And that's all I have for you guys and girls out there today. As always, I'm your boy, Big Beard B, and hit the like, comment, and subscribe. Tell a friend that we are back again. And you already know what I need you to do. Just hit the goddamn bell.